All right. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the First Five Sacramento Commission for Monday, February 5th, 2018. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll and establish a quorum?
Dave Gordon.
Here.
Beth Hassett.
Here.
Terrence Jones.
Here.
Olivia Kassiri. Paul Lake.
Here.
Scott Moak.
Here.
Phil Cerna.
Here.
We have a quorum. And with Olivia Kassiri being out today, Kathy Kosick will be voting in her place.
Okay,
This meeting of the First Five Sacramento Commission is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse cable systems. This meeting is closed caption and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Today's meeting will be repeated Wednesday, February 7th at 2 p.m. and Friday, February 9th at noon on Channel 14. Members of the audience wishing to address the Commission may sign a speaker slip at the kiosk located in the back of the room. Please include the agenda item number that you wish to address and then bring the completed form to me. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the Commission and state your name for the record. If you have any electronic devices, please put them on silent or turn off now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Again, I'd like to welcome everyone to this afternoon's First Five Sacramento Commission meeting and remind folks that if you choose to address the Commission, you're certainly welcome to do so on any item that's on the agenda or any item that is not on the agenda that is listed as agenda item 2. Today, we only ask that you please complete a speaker slip and hand it to our clerk, and we'll be sure to call you in the order I receive those slips. We do ask that you respect a 3-minute speaking limit so that everyone has an opportunity to address the Commission if they so choose. So before we get into our agenda today, I think even before we get into consent matters, I'd like to suggest a revision to today's agenda, and I've sought the counsel of our executive director and legal counsel on this. I would like, and we're going to need to take a vote on this, I would like to continue items 9 and 10 to next month's Commission hearing. This will give us more time that I think is necessary, having had some detailed conversation with Ms. Galelo about exhausting every possible means of ensuring that we are going to meet the full force and intent of what is intended by the release of these contracts. So I would like the Commission to support that, and I'm going to make that motion that we continue items 9 and 10 until our March meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Dave Gordon.
Aye.
Beth Hassett.
Aye.
Terrence Jones.
Aye.
Kathy Kosick.
Aye.
Paul Lake.
Aye.
Scott Moak.
Aye.
Phil Cerna.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Very good. And for those of you that took time out of your days to be here for items 9 and 10, I do apologize for that, but please stay tuned. We will be considering this next month, and would certainly welcome your comments about those items when they are before us. With that, we'll move on with our regular agenda. So first up is consent items, which is item number 1 is our draft action summary. Any member of the Commission wish to suggest a change? If not, I'd look for a motion. Been moved by Commissioner Jones. Chair will second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. On to separate matters.
Public comment on non-agenda items.
Okay, again, this is the public's opportunity to address this Commission on any item that's not on today's agenda. Don't see anyone approaching the podium, nor do I have any. I do have speaker slips. Whoa. For a change. All right. We got 3 of them. All right. All right. First up is Kendra Montgomery Block, and then Michelle Steen.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name again is Kendra Montgomery Block, and I have the honor of being the staff leader.
Kendra, could you move to the center? We can hear you better over there. Thank you.
of being the staff lead at the Sierra Health Foundation Center for the Black Child Legacy Campaign. We came to you a couple of months ago with our annual report, and today we come to you just with a lot of thanks and a lot of gratitude and some scarves. We have, in honor of Black History Month and of course of Martin Luther King Parade, we were able to march both on the north side and in the middle of in the city center, just for our community's opportunity to create grace and understanding amongst our citizens and create an opportunity for peace to exist. And so we want to give you these scarves as part of our efforts to continue to wrap ourselves in love, wrap your community in love, but most importantly, wrap these moms and babies in love. So please take these scarves as a token of our appreciation, of our gratitude of your leadership. On them, you'll also find a little bit of a lapel pin, as well as a thank you, and then, of course, our Gathering for Glory conference that will be April 19th.
Very good. Thank you very much for that.
Absolutely.
And I will tell you, there are a number of us that participated in the MLK marches. It was very gratifying to see all these green scarves being worn by the mayor and other civic leaders, really giving everyone the great impression that we are committed, both at the county, First Five Commission, the city of Sacramento, to the great collective effort that is the Black Child Legacy. And so I would ask that our commissioners, whenever they have the chance and their neck is a little cold, that you please wear this with pride, knowing that this commission has, as Kendra pointed out, played a very major role in getting us this far. This is something that the entire community, this commission included, should take great pride in, and we thank you for the acknowledgement today, Kendra.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay. Michelle? Michelle and Lyle. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Lyle Jones, the the director of the Crocker Art Museum. On behalf of the museum's co-trustees and staff, we're here to thank you for First Five funding. The museum began an All About Families initiative when we moved into the Teal Family Pavilion in 2010. We've long recognized that family audiences are essential to the long-term future of the museum, and an audience that prior to expansion we were not serving well. In fact, after the first year in our new building, we went from an institution seldom mentioned in any list of places for kids to regularly being listed as one of the top 10 destinations in the Sacramento region for youth and families. Then, thanks to a First Five grant, we were able to focus on early childhood programs, and since 2015, we have doubled the museum's offerings for those ages 0 to 5. We have solidified the museum as a major community resource for school readiness programming. The Crocker offers programs for all ages on the 0 to 5 continuum, from Baby Loves Art to Artful Tot to Wee Wednesdays to Sunday play dates to story trails, art packs, and A is for art preschool tours. These programs serve over 5,000 visitors per year, many of whom come free of charge through a free family pass program. Last year we distributed 13,000 passes. Those passes have encouraged repeat visitation, and we see some families every single week. Passes are available in English and Spanish. In fact, one of the things I'm particularly proud of is the fact that many families use the museum to really focus on improving English language skills, something that has been very gratifying. Michelle Steen's going to speak in just a minute. Michelle's one of our early childhood specialists, and she'll say a little bit more about that in her remarks. The museum has performed extensive evaluation, both quantitative and qualitative, in-depth interviews as part of the grant. And one of the things we heard repeatedly from caregivers was a desire for more interactive spaces for children within the museum. Those interviews helped inform the creation of Art Spots, 5 unique interactive art installations in the museum designed for those 5 and under. They're designed by local artists. They've been fully funded by both First Five and the Institute for Museum and Library Services, a national grant. They are designed in collaboration between early childhood advisors, artists, and museum staff. And all of the installations are interactive, hands-on, promote school readiness skills, and are pedagogically informed by play-based learning principles. One of the goals of the Early Childhood Initiative was for the Crocker to truly embrace its youngest visitors and to be more welcoming for families and engaging for early learners. We also wanted the community to see our visible advocacy for this audience and to better understand the importance of arts engagement early in life. I'm happy to report that we've witnessed an overwhelmingly positive response from the public. We hope that all of you will come and take a tour of some of the art spots and other offerings that the museum has. In fact, if you let Julie know, she'd be happy to set that up pretty much at your convenience as a group or one-on-one. And we just really are here to say thank you for what you've done.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Any comments from commissioners? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lyle. I'm Michelle Steen, the early childhood educator at the Crocker, and I manage all of our family programs. And I want to speak a little bit more about those art spots, and I believe later on you're going to get some little video of it to further enhance your understanding of it. Since opening the art spots over the last year, we have seen a significant increase in attendance by families, both during the week and weekends. The community response has been huge. Parents and caregivers are taking more ownership of the museum and seeing it as a welcoming and fun place for them and their families. A significant amount of this attendance is from families and groups redeeming those free family passes, including First Five contractors like La Familia Counseling Center, community building groups, and family resource centers like Meadowview and River Oak. We can reach these groups in ways we weren't able to before because of the art spots. Previously, we could offer a weekday preschool tour or age-specific programming, but now we offer spaces in the museum that can accommodate multiple ages of children for a whole family or group experience. These groups plan visits together and stay for several hours, engaging with the art spots and in the galleries. Many of these visitors are first-time attendees of the museum and are surprised to find how child-friendly and welcoming the Crocker is. We've been delighted to see them return on multiple occasions. Something we really didn't anticipate but have been thrilled to see with the art spots is the higher attendance in our 5 and under programs as a direct result of these spots. In our preschool program alone, we have seen a 75% increase in attendance compared with the same program numbers last year. Children and their caregivers attending these programs have deeper learning opportunities around art exploration and art making, where they practice school readiness skills and work on their social and emotional development. We have observed parents engaging with the art spots in a different way than they have in the museum in the past. They are allowing the children to lead. The children are engaging in imaginative and open-ended play, and we see curiosity and exploration on the part of all. Although we are still collecting data through surveys and observation, anecdotally, we see less smartphone use on the part of the caregivers and more play and interaction with their children and the artwork, selfies not being accepted. I want to share a story about a little girl. Her name is Natalie. She's 3 years old, and she started attending our toddler program last year with her mother. She speaks Mandarin and is learning English. She now attends our weekly preschool age program, and because of the art spots, she visits multiple times a week. Natalie and her mom often meet her dad, who works nearby, for lunch at the museum. Her English is improving, and she loves joining the other children on gallery adventures or proudly showing us the artwork she made in Totland, which is one of the art spots. Natalie is learning exponentially, and her mother finds connection and friendship at the museum, where she might otherwise be isolated at home. And the whole family feels ownership of the museum. Many people are treating the art spots as a destination. They are engaging with the art in different ways, and the museum is more accessible to the community and people from diverse backgrounds and resources. We couldn't be more pleased with the results and look forward to continuing to build on the success we've seen thanks to First Five. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Was there a video?
There is.
Okay.
There you go. My name is Jai Young. I'm an artist and designer.
My name is Glenda Drew. I consider myself an artist, designer, maker person. Our project is based in our love of this room, and so we wanted to make something sort of site-specific.
How much light this room has really inspired this idea about colors and light. We're hoping to create some magic with that. We wanted to be able to take a familiar object and amplify its effect.
So we came up with the concept of the kaleidoscope. For me, the kaleidoscope is this early attempt at altered reality. Anything through the view of a kaleidoscope just becomes so beautiful. Another primary concept for us is that we want kids' content to be a big part of the show. Not only can see a lot of reflections within the sculptural elements themselves, because we are using a lot of mirror in those, but we have these other interactive elements that bring kids' content to the front.
And then we do also have a light table where kids can touch the material and put together sort of their mini version of the sculpture.
In a way, the final work is a collaboration between us and the audience. We want to make that connection for kids that's empowering, that we're doing what you were doing, just on a different scale.
So again, thank you for being here today and explaining all the great things that are happening at the Crocker. Commissioner Wirtz, did you have a comment or question?
Just a brief congratulations and acknowledgement. I think we're really pleased when we first thought about funding for this area, and I'm, obviously the innovative work that you've done here for 0 to 5 is really extremely valuable, I think, and I think you're seeing it in the interaction with the community. So I really see it as in a collaboration that you've expanded your outreach and your ability to serve our communities, and I'm hoping that this is part of our ability to have our community members sustain these kind of efforts in the community, whether or not we're able to continue the same level of funding in the future. So it's really congrats, and I'm hoping that this is part of a sustainable piece that Crocker can build in ongoing as a way to reach our children and families. So thank you.
I actually had a question for one or both of you. What are we doing across the county or region relative to turning STEM to STEAM in terms of expanded curricula, not just in school settings, but could be museum settings. I don't know, but this intent to expand or focus attention on science, technology, engineering, and math, which is greatly appreciated, seems to have really taken hold here and elsewhere. But only occasionally do I see the expanded acronym reference to include art. So maybe you can speak to that.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that would encompass also our school-age programs. I know that with the tours that we see from school groups all around the county and beyond, they are based on California state standards, and so they work with the schools to pick those tours. In terms of STEAM, the arts part of that, we are working on a collaboration with the Powerhouse Science Center, and we always have multiple, spoons and pots in terms of advocating for the arts as a part of core learning, and certainly from early on. I think STEAM is still a little less used in the 5 and under, but
So if I may address that as well, I often have said that STEM, while very important, is rather rooted in the ground, and STEAM gives you liftoff. It's well proven that innovation happens around the edges, and those individuals that are siloed into a single track of learning actually don't have much opportunity to innovate because they don't have edges. They kind of are very narrowly focused. So we put a lot of emphasis on it. We work with David Lubin and other STEAM designated schools in this region. We do a lot lot throughout the 9-county Sacramento region, and in fact have school-age audiences that come from throughout the state because of the state capitol visiting the Crocker as well as other institutions. We are currently working on a new education plan, School Programs 2020, which will be working with both in-service educators now, people teaching currently in the schools, doing more with pre-service teachers, the College of Education at Sac State, and really looking at how to make sure that the museum's curriculum offerings are as strong as possible, and also very important to us that access is broadened, because there's a lot of research that shows that access, especially for Title I students, is extremely low in Sacramento County.
Thank you. Thanks again. Okay. That completes our list of speakers on off-agenda items. So we will move on with item 3, which is the Executive Director's report. Sorry.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. It was exciting to see the video. I got to tour the Crocker Art Museum last fall and actually go into this exhibit, which is called Plink. Plink is now down as of December, but 2 new art spots have opened. So I can't wait to get back over and take my own grandkids in there. They're amazing. That was beautiful, but they're even so much more amazing when you're in there and you see the kids interacting with it. So I would love to set up a tour for you. So if you are curious and want to come out and bring kids or grandkids, please let me know and we can do like a first 5-day at the Crocker. I think it'd be amazing. I'll walk you through a couple of the highlights of the Executive Director's report. I did sort of lay out some of the state budget proposals that were key with 0 to 5 issues. And this budget, I think, takes an important step in prioritizing funding for a lot of supports for kids 0 to 5. There's home visiting in here, there's health coverage, quality early learning. First 5 Sacramento, as you know, through our Policy and Advocacy and Sustainability Committee, we're committed to helping where we can at the Capitol to make these things a reality, push the budget further. And so if you want to see in detail, that it's sort of laid out in the Executive Director's report. I also highlighted a little bit on AB 11. This is a bill that's co-sponsored with First 5 Association and our local Assembly member McCarty. And it requires pediatricians to screen children ages 0 to 3 to do a developmental screening, which is something that we've long thought is needed. And in fact, our own Help Me Grow program, this would definitely further our Help Me Grow. It's a reimbursable service. And we actually use the Ages and Stages questionnaire through Help Me Grow, which is one of the recommended tools to be used. So we'll be tracking this one, and I believe we're having families come and provide testimony when needed on it. I wanted to highlight that there is a new conference coming to Sacramento for all of Northern California. Commissioner Wirtz is on the planning committee. And this is, the name of this is going to be, let me find it, sorry. Toward a Trauma-Informed Northern California Summit. So it's a day-long summit. It'll be at the Sierra Health Foundation on April 18th. As soon as I get something tangible to put in your hands, I will send it out. You are the target audience, truly. It's for policymakers and leaders, organizational directors, government agencies working with prevention and early intervention with childhood trauma. So I highly encourage you to attend when it comes out. Also in the ED report, Commissioners Gordon and Elliott joined First 5 staff at Folsom Cordova Unified School District Elementary School, where we hosted Assembly Member Ken Cooley. We showed him a variety of play groups and preschool classrooms and really highlighted our First 5 investments. And we continue to bring our state legislators out to see our funded programs and really show them what our money is doing in their area.
I like the camera you guys use. It takes about 50 pounds off you.
Also, just a little highlight from our dental world. McDac received an award from Access Dental Plan for our achievements and contribution toward promoting oral health in Sacramento County. And our own Commissioner Jones has served as the chair of McDac since this group's inception 6 years ago. And in communications, just a couple of things to highlight. We have some events. Obviously, you've heard me talk a lot about our Pride and Joy baby shower. This is our third baby shower, happening February 24th from 11 to 2 at the Pinnell Community Center. The Vietnamese Lunar Tet Festival, which will feature the Smile Keeper's Tooth Truck, will take place on February 10th in South Sacramento. And there are 2 exciting events in March that First Five is partnering with the Sacramento Kings to bring. March 2nd is a celebration of Dr. Seuss Day, and it will be at one of our school readiness sites, preschool classrooms. And we'll share details as soon as we have the classroom and the specific time. And then March 25th, as a collaboration with the Kings and First Five California, they're going to provide some free tickets for families and teachers at the game, and the key message at this game will promote Talk, Read, Sing, which is First Five California's education message.
And we will be, if I can for just a second, we will also be doing a Baby's Got Talent at the game. So we will actually be sourcing and taking online nominations, or whatever we're calling them, where people are sending in videos about how talented their 0 to 5er is. And then we will be having them out on the actual court during the game to showcase their talent. And then fans will vote. And so that will be either awesome or an absolute tragedy. But
either way,
we're excited for it for sure. And it's been fun working with First Five California, indeed.
Great, thank you. The other event it's not happening till April, but I'm hoping to get it on some of your calendars, so wanted to share it now. That's the 3rd annual First Five California Child Health Education and Care Summit. The whole summit will be April 10 through 12, but specifically on April 10th is a Commissioner Day specifically. So it'll have 2 tracks. One is going to be around early education, so there'll be a whole bunch of people there but doing that track. The other track is just for commissioners. It'll be a luncheon and an afternoon session where the executive director from First Five Association, First Five California, and I believe a couple local county executive directors are going to talk about the network strategy. This is the strategy that I mentioned in my previous executive director's report. Our new look on life, if you will, at First Five, when we're all speaking with one voice. We're not highlighting individual things that all of us are doing separately, but we're trying to pull all of our impact into one place to say we are First Five, and here's what we do across the state. So it's really introducing commissioners to the network strategy, and the overall goal of that strategy is to gain more influence that leads to greater resources for kids 0 to 5 across the state. So I think it's going to be a really great afternoon. Unfortunately, it's in Glendale, so it does involve some travel, but we do have funds in the First Five budget for commissioners to attend, so please let me know if you are interested. And finally, I just wanted to take the last minute of my executive director's report to recognize Commissioner Lake, because it's with great sadness that I have to come to terms with the fact that today is his last commission meeting with us. Paul has been a tremendous help to me over the last 2 years. A great boss, which sometimes is not always the case. So I really appreciate that. He has a dry sense of humor. I'm sure some of you know that. He brings it out, I think, when things look especially grim, and I so appreciate that too. He brings levity to my world. But more importantly, I think he's truly helped me to be a better executive director too. He makes me, he asks tough questions that forces me to think things through, and then he just very gently guides me in the right direction, I think, every time, and appreciate that. He's also made me feel like a part of the Sacramento County team outside of the First Five world, but just has introduced me to all of my colleagues there, and that's been really helpful too, and I appreciate that.
We've cured you of your yellowness, right?
Yes, my
Okay.
yellowness?
Yes.
Oh, my YOLO-ness, yeah. YOLO-ness, yeah. I will miss your guidance, Paul, truly, but please keep the pictures of your granddaughter coming, because we need those. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. I really have been grateful. I just want to say I'm very grateful to have served on this commission, and quite honored to serve with those of you on the commission. Some of you I've known for a very long time. Mr. Wirtz and I go back to about 1992, and with many of you over the course of my career. What we do here is going to have repercussions for years to come. Everything we do here, everything this commission does, all the work that the staff does, all the work that the people who are sitting out in the audience and out there serving families and children every day, it's really going to have impact for years and maybe even generations to come, and it's been very humbling to be a part of that. So I want to thank Julie and her staff and all of you for that. And I particularly want to thank Julie. The bar was set very high by your predecessor, and you've not only cleared it, but you've raised it. And I'm very impressed with the work you do. I think you've provided excellent guidance to this commission and leading us into what could be a very challenging future. So I want to thank you for that, and thank you for your friendship, and thank all of you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, does that complete your executive report? Okay, I know that Commissioner Jones had a question or comment.
More of a comment. Thank you, and congratulations, Paul. I want to just go back and just briefly comment on the child health section on the Prop 56 funding. I know that this is a significant amount of money that is proposed for the current budget, 2018-2019 budget, $70 million. That comes on top for dental providers in particular, reimbursement rates. That comes on top of $140 million last year, so for a total of the both years of about $210 million. So that is very significant, and we are very glad that this is happening. But there is a little bit of a caution because last year that money was dependent upon and potentially taken away by the negotiations that happened during the budget process. So this is an important and necessary and much to be lauded first step, but the final budget comes through in June, so all of these budget proposals are still up in the air, and so we hope that our advocacy efforts will continue to promote this. Thank you.
Other questions, comments for Julie? Not, we'll move on with your agenda. Okay. Thank you.
Item 4, Advisory Committee Update. Appoint Carolyn Curtis to Parks and Rec seat.
Okay.
So Ms. Curtis is a current member of the advisory committee, and she has been for several years. She's terming out of her current seat, which is grandparent, and would like to move seats so she could continue in her role. She does a lot of our trauma-informed care for the group and is just a very energetic, enthusiastic member. And she has a background in physical education. She taught physical education, and so she would like to join in our Parks and Rec category, which is currently open.
Okay. So do we have to formally take a nomination and vote, right?
Yes.
Okay. So entertain a nomination.
I nominate Carolyn Curtis.
Okay, is there a second?
Go back on.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Moak. Let's do roll call, please.
Dave Gordon.
Aye.
Beth Hassett.
Aye.
Terrence Jones.
Aye.
Olivia Kassiri.
Aye.
Paul Lake.
Aye.
Scott Moak.
Aye.
Phil Cerna.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Very good. Okay. Is there a separate report or not?
Nope.
Okay. So next item, please.
Item 5, Evaluation Committee update.
Thank you. Just quickly, the January 22nd meeting was held, and we primarily worked on the report that you're going to receive in short order. In addition, though, we always hear about contracting, quarterly reporting, and the work that we're doing to improve data collection, both at SCOE and all our partners. And the evaluation RFQ was put out at that. We were informed about the process for that, and we should hear mid-February is what we were told at that time. And the reason I hesitate is that it could have changed by then.
No, it'll come to the commission in March for approval.
Excellent. Okay. And then finally, the Birth and Beyond evaluation report has been an ongoing work in progress. We have a work group that is interdisciplinary across our partners, interagency across our partners, and we expect to have final work done on that in the fairly near future.
Okay, thank you. Next item, please.
Item 6, Financial Planning Committee update.
The Financial Planning Committee did not meet. However, members did receive updated financials for the most current period.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next item.
Item 7, Sustainability Committee update.
The Sustainability Committee also did not meet in January and will be meeting in 2 weeks.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 8, approval of funding recommendations for programs under the results of school readiness, community connections, and infant death.
Okay.
Please don't think we've been slacking by not having those meetings. We've been working on getting these contracts put together.
Chair?
Yes. Yes.
If I may, I have to recuse myself on this item. I have a financial interest in one of the organizations.
Understood. Thank you. Commissioner Cossack? Was that leftover? Never mind, that was leftover. Okay. All right,
Okay,
go ahead.
thank you. With this agenda item, staff are recommending approval of funding for 12 programs that are within 3 of the result areas of our 2018 strategic plan. The plan, which was approved last June, identifies 3 priorities, 5 goals, and 10 results in which we're going to invest $60.1 million. In addition to several competitive bid processes, through our implementation plan, the Commission selected some specific programs to participate in a non-competitive process, an RFA, request for applications. This was a cost-effective way to move forward, particularly when only one agency was viable to provide those services. So an RFA template was developed for contractors to respond to on all the selected results and strategies, and it included questions regarding the target audience, the proposed core services, the outreach plans, partnerships, and even sustainability efforts. In addition, all the applicants were required to submit a scope of work and a budget for review. The planners tailored the RFA template for each of the specific strategies to include more detailed expectations and requirements. And if needed, the organizations filled out an addendum if staff had questions after the applications were complete. A synopsis of each of the program's proposed services is included in your packet. That's attachments 1 through 12, so 1 page per program. The Commission's approval of this big resolution in front of you would award 8 school districts with a combined total of $9.5 million in funding to provide school readiness services to parents and children. It awards the Sacramento County Office of Education with $1.2 million to implement Help Me Grow. It awards Community Link Capital Region with $350,000 to implement 211. And finally, it awards the Child Abuse Prevention Council with $271,000 to provide fiscal agent services for our Community Connections grants, as well as $600,000 to coordinate and implement the Safe Sleep Awareness Campaign and to distribute portable cribs. Staff recommends adoption of the attached resolution authorizing the Executive Director to enter into a contract with the 8 school districts, SCOE, Community Link, and CAPSI for the contract period of July 1, 2018 through June 30, 2021 to provide all of those prevention and early intervention services.
Okay, any questions for our executive director? I don't have anyone signed up to speak on this item. If there's no commission discussion, I'd entertain a motion at this point.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Lake, seconded by Commissioner Moak. Let's take a roll call vote, please.
Beth Hassett.
Aye.
Terrence Jones. Olivia Kassiri.
Aye.
Paul Lake.
Aye.
Scott Moak.
Aye.
Phil Cerna.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Good, thank you. As was noted earlier, we are continuing items 9 and 10, so we're on to item 11.
Item 11, approval of a fourth amendment to the agreement with Golden State Water Company. Let me go get,
You heard. Okay. The staff recommendation before you this afternoon would result in fluoridation of the Arden service area, which reaches about 5,500 people, 616 of whom are children ages 0 to 5. As you know, fluoridation has been a commission funding priority for the past 14 years. During that time, First Five investments have significantly increased the number of fluoridation facilities throughout the county, and currently more than 885,000 residents and 65% of children ages 0 to 5 have access to fluoridated drinking water. Water suppliers have also agreed to continue and maintain those fluoridation facilities for 20 years. As a reminder, the Golden State Water contract has been amended 3 times to enable further exploration of fluoridating not only the Arden service area, but also the Cordova service area. The last amendment funded a study that was to do 3 things. First, to identify specific locations in the parkway to potentially build a fluoridation facility. Second, to identify issues or concerns related to those locations. And third, to determine the permitting steps and timeline for building a fluoridation facility in the parkway. The additional study, and there's a copy of it in your packet, shows that we would need permits from the Sacramento, let me go back, identifies 3 locations in the parkway and the agencies that have jurisdiction over jurisdictional responsibility or authority over the area in the parkway where the facility could potentially be built. Building in the parkway requires permits from the County of Sacramento, the City of Rancho Cordova, and from local, state, and federal agencies. The study reveals that Golden State Water Company would need to submit plans and preliminary design specifications for review before any of the agencies could actually inform us if we can build in that area. In addition to the county and the city, 4 specific agencies were identified: the American River Flood Control District, the Central Valley Flood Protection Board, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and FEMA. Cost estimates from Golden State Water Company bring the total estimation of cost to $280,000 and about 18 months in order to determine if indeed we could build a facility in the parkway. If any of the permits are rejected or denied from any of the agencies involved, that would terminate the process at that point along the way. If the Commission chooses to engage in the permitting process, it will be taking a financial risk by expending up to $280,000 with no guarantee of receiving all the needed permits and approvals. The high cost for permitting and the unknown feasibility of obtaining the permits and approvals for the Cordova system has prompted staff to renew their previous recommendation from June of 2017. Staff recommends foregoing the formal permitting application process and proceeding only with fluoridating the Arden system. Please refer to attachment 2 in your packet. You can see the Sacramento County fluoridation map, and you can see in an orange highlighted area the location of the Arden service area. It contains numerous closely spaced single-family homes, several apartment buildings, a number of commercial buildings, parks, a K through 8 charter school, and 2 preschools, one of which is a Head Start preschool serving more than 250 low-income children ages 0 to 5. This recommendation will make the Arden system the last planned fluoridation capital project of the Commission's oral health efforts. The Golden State Water contract would be in the amount of $1.8 million to cover expenses of the Arden project. Staff recommends adoption of the attached resolution authorizing the executive director to negotiate and execute a 4th amendment with Golden State Water for up to $1.8-ish million for the Arden system, and to extend the term of the contract to December 31st of 2019. An amount of nearly $2 million would remain in the first 5 reserves for future use.
Okay. I know that Commissioner Jones has probably plenty to say about this. But before we hear from him, I was just chatting with my colleague here, Supervisor Kennedy. We represent the south part of the county, near the south part of the city of Sacramento. And we note from this map, which I don't know that I've seen before, which is really interesting, the water fluoridation in Sacramento County and where it's distributed and partially distributed, I guess. So remind me again why we have these holes down near Fruit Ridge and Florin Road.
I believe those are water districts that were probably not interested in fluoridating.
When's the last time we met with them or, proposed that we might want to pursue something in those areas?
I'm not sure that we have. My understanding, and I don't know if I'm 100%, but Dr. Jones might know more than I do. My understanding is that the commission sort of put out an open call to say, we have money for fluoridation, and if you're a district that would like to fluoridate, we would like to help with that. And some districts just immediately took us up on the offer, and we pursued some where we knew that the water company was supportive of doing this. And so that kind of prioritized for us how we would and where we would go about fluoridating. One of the last ones that we had was Golden State Water Company. They're very supportive of fluoridation, and there were these 2 potential projects. So I don't know, maybe Dr. Jones can answer more, but I bet that they just weren't
expressing interest.
And so to my knowledge, all the water districts, there's many in Sacramento County.
Understood.
So they were all asked, and we sought their participation, but we did have a finite amount of money, and so then we went with those who were most interested in doing it and would be the most cost-effective districts to fluoridate. And then as our community needs kind of grew larger and our fiscal needs grew less encouraging, then we focused our efforts on Golden State Water District, and haven't since this particular project began about 3 or 4.
2013?
Yeah, 5 years ago. Haven't pursued anybody else because we wanted to complete this first.
But it's always, to your knowledge, Dr. Jones and Julie, been expressed as, hey, you tell us, Water District, if you're interested, and that's kind of the first litmus test for whether we move any further, right? We don't say, for instance, hey, we've identified some communities that are considered not just disadvantaged by Sacramento County standards, but by regional standards. You have a child population of X. It makes sense because you're surrounded literally on all 4 sides by jurisdictions that do fluoridate. I'm not hearing that we've been that kind of proactive.
Again, I think we have been proactive in the sense that we identified who were the most cost-effective ways in which we would go about doing it, and then what what number, percent-wise, population-wise, of low-income, disadvantaged people we could best serve, the largest numbers. A smaller district, even though it looks encouraging, and I'm not opposed to going after a smaller district, it's often just as expensive to do a small district as it is to do a larger one.
No quarrel with that. I just feel like if we're dealing with a water district that maybe has 1 or 2 employees and perhaps they're just an older water district, their kind of reflexive reaction is going to be, we can't afford it, so let's end the conversation. But I'm hoping that that's not kind of how we leave it. I mean, I look at this from the perspective of we have an obligation, especially those of us that represent those constituents in a different context here, to advance the access, in this case, to fluoridation as a public health issue, kind of separate from just simply tell us whether you think you can afford it. Maybe there's a different way for us to approach those districts. So I think in the future, I know that's not what's in front of us today, but this is pretty glaring. And they happens to be, in both cases, those 2 holes in the donut there happen to be areas of the county where you're splitting supervisorial districts. So in the case of Fruit Ridge, District 1, the district I represent is north of Fruit Ridge. District 2, the district that Supervisor Kennedy represents, is south of Fruit Ridge. Same goes for the area around that section of Florin Road. So what I would like to suggest is that the executive director, Commissioner Kennedy, and myself maybe set up a meeting in the not too distant future to discuss how we might a little more aggressively or proactively have at least another conversation with the water districts that are relevant to this conversation in these 2 areas.
Thank you.
Okay, now the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. That's encouraging, and I appreciate your interest in anything we can do. It's a little bittersweet when we come to this is our final water fluoridation project, and I first want to say I'm very grateful for this Commission's past funding. I've said it many times, and I am truly grateful for the past funding of the fluoridation projects in our community. We've done a wealth of good, brought the benefits of water fluoridation to many of the low-income families throughout our area, and I appreciate and the sensible recommendations that staffs are making today for our consideration. I also want to emphasize how I am grateful for the open and transparent way in which our staff has encouraged, listened, and acted upon my input. And I'm particularly grateful to Julie, our executive director, for accompanying me to many of the fluoridation meetings where, as you can imagine, the conversation is not always welcome. I appreciate the difficulties that the Rancho Cordova facility poses. It's expensive. It would require more county staff time as well as First Five staff time. The facility would be needed to be located in a parkway. It's in a floodplain. Plans have to be submitted and reviewed by a host of local, state, federal agencies, and the facility would require much more political capital, I think, be expended by a variety of people. And finally, after all those efforts, the facility may not get approved. You know, I'm very personally disappointed to lose this opportunity to fluoridate Rancho, but I also recognize that there are too many challenges and too many community needs to tie the money up without guarantees. I'm comfortable that the recommendation before you is doable and would be completed in an expedited time frame. In light of the decreasing fiscal resources, this resolution is a responsible thing to do for our commission and for the families we serve. I recommend your support.
Okay, is that a motion?
I move.
Okay, Chair will second. Any further discussion? I have no one signed up to speak on this. If there's no further discussion, let's take a roll call vote, please.
Dave Gordon.
Aye.
Beth Hassett.
Aye.
Terrence Jones.
Aye.
Olivia Kasiri.
Aye.
Paul Lake.
Aye.
Scott Moak.
Aye.
Phil Cernett.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Very good. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 12, presentation of the fiscal year 2016-17 annual evaluation report.
We are joined this afternoon by Lisa Nikolai from ASR, and she's going to walk us through a PowerPoint deck on the highlights of our $20+ million investment of last year.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. How's my sound? Okay?
Yep.
And normally, I know we usually bring about 10 slides to you today. We've gone a little bit over. We have 18 slides, I think, so we'll try to get through fairly quickly. But how are we doing on time? We're doing okay on time? All right, great. So as Julie said, I'm Lisa Nikolai. I'm with Applied Survey Research. We have been your evaluators since 2014. And in previous years, you've seen my colleague, Mikhail Newport-Berra, in front of you. So this year, the honor is mine to get to share data with you. And today, I have a deck of about 18 slides to share with you, but also you have your full report in the packet. So that has 90 pages of action-packed data, probably weighs about 90 pounds as well. So it was very tough to just pick and pull certain data points for you here today, but hopefully I've done my best. Okay, there you go. So in terms of the purpose of the report, the first thing to say about it is I really look at the evaluation report as a data book. It's a compendium. It's not a community report that highlights big messages. It's really the repository for all of the data that's been gathered for the past year. And the purpose of these data is really to describe what has happened in terms of clients served, the services offered, and the outcomes achieved relative to the strategic hierarchy, which you'll see on the next page. But something that's new this year is we used a results-based accountability approach. How many folks have heard of RBA? I know Dr. Casserier has. But basically, it's a framework that helps you organize your thinking about indicators that you'll be collecting. And so there are 3 categories. The first one is how much did you do? So really a measure of volume or quantity of the work that happened. The second is how well did you do the work? So a measure of quality of the work that took place. And the third dimension is anybody better off? So we really want to understand, was that work worth it? And so with those data, we hope to be highlighting programmatic successes and collaborative successes, but we're also on the lookout for things that didn't quite appear as we had hoped. So Commissioner Wars calls those places for quality improvements. And so when we shared the data with the evaluation subcommittee a couple weeks ago, we thought, there were a couple places we want to revisit as a team of things that could be areas for tightening up in the next fiscal year. So in the last bullet point here is that really this is a platform or a data repository, again, to help supply First Five with the data that it needs for its external messaging. So a nice community report is always prepared every year by the team. There's also Facebook feeds and social media messaging. So that is the purpose of this year's report. Okay, so now I present to you the strategic hierarchy as really the framework for the work that First Five Sacramento does and the framework for today's presentation. So Julie just mentioned how this has just changed in result of the strategic planning effort. So this actually is the old framework. The coming year it will look a little bit different, fewer results. But this framework has 3 broad priority areas across the top of health, early care and development, and empowered families. And in service of those priority areas, we have 7 goals, which are the orange boxes, and then to support or fulfill those 7 goals, we have 15 different result areas. So I'm going to be giving to you the highlights within those 7 goal areas, just touching on quickly each of the major programs that are funded. First, a profile of First Five clients. So using a variety of data, mostly Persimmony, which is a database that almost every grantee puts data into, but we also have our family intake forms, and sometimes grantees supply aggregate data where we can't get individual data. We showed that we had over 61,000 clients served this last year, so which is amazing. That's a slight uptick from the previous year. But the thing to note is that by design, we want to have programs or multiple programs sometimes touching the same family or child. We want to see families connected to multiple programs. So the next number is an unduplicated count. So that brings us down to 24,000 unique individuals got services. So a little bit over 8,000 children and 15,000 adults. So in terms of the breakdown by ethnicity of the clients, the makeup is pretty similar to what it was last year, and it's very interesting to report, I think because of the higher focus on high needs areas around the county, but we are overrepresented in terms of the proportion of clients that are African American compared to the county averages, as well as those that are Latino or Hispanic, and then we're underrepresented in the proportion that are white or Asian. The primary language this year was English, followed by Spanish. Okay, moving into the goal areas. So the first goal focuses on access to health and dental care. And the first program that I wanted to profile is the Hearts for Kids program. And this is a program for children that are in protective custody. And this year, 437 children were served. And the purpose of that is to give them a comprehensive health screening and developmental screening and connect them to services if needed. So 373 children were screened for dental needs, and 88% were referred. That number really struck me as amazing. So 88% had evidence of oral needs, and they were referred to treatment. On the developmental screening front, 309 children were screened, and 50% were referred. That's quite a bit higher than the national flag rate, which is about 15%. So again, that tells us that this program is tapping a high-need population, identifying needs, and referring them to services. 15 is the national rate, about average for, it's called the flag rate of developmental concerns. So 50% in this population were referred. The next program is Sacramento Covered, which, as you know, its core job is to either insure folks with health insurance or to, if they are insured, to connect them to a medical or dental provider. And so in last year, in FY 16-17, over 5,000 people were supported for healthcare needs. Navigation services were provided to almost 1,500 individuals. So this, again, is understanding how to connect that family to health or dental services if they needed it. So what's really neat about this program is they conduct calls with clients after they see them. And so especially those clients who didn't have care at intake, and then SAC Covered provides its services, and so we hope to see an uptick in coverage rates afterward. And so what we see from their follow-up calls is that of those who did not have health insurance at intake, 91% did at the follow-up call. Of those who did not have a regular doctor at intake, 94% did at the follow-up call. So these connection rates are really good. The same thing for medical checkup. It is interesting to note that there's a drop-off for connection to a regular dentist and connection to dental checkup. We still see some success there, but to us and the evaluation subcommittee, it pointed to us a pattern around easier connections to medical care, more difficult to connect folks to oral health care. Okay, the family intake form is a survey that we do across almost all grantees, and then we also do a follow-up form, and we don't catch everybody with a follow-up, but we catch a good share of folks. And so one of the questions on the family intake form is we ask folks, especially those who have an 18-month or older, if they had had a checkup in the past 6 months. And so at intake, 69% had had a checkup for that child who's 18 months or older, and that increased to 78% at follow-up. So that is good, and it's quite a big sample size, so that increase was significant. Smile Keepers, as you know, it's been a long-time grantee of First 5 Sacramento, and they do dental screenings in preschools and WIC clinics and community events around the county. And over 8,000 children had a dental screening in 16-17. And of those 8,000 children, 37% had needs. So 7% of those were urgent needs and 30% were non-urgent. But still 37% had an oral health need and were referred to treatment. So another exciting breakthrough this past year is we're able to work with Smile Keepers to get individual level data. So they actually had the data, but we weren't able to yet share it with First 5 and ASR. So we had a breakthrough this past year and worked with them to give them a Scantron form. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Excuse me, Commissioner Jones.
You can finish. I just had a question. I wanted to go back. You mentioned to Scott, I think, that you had a red flag for the health referral back in your access to health and dental at 15% national, 50% for us for. Do you have a red flag for the referral for the dental? We had 88%. Was there a similar? I don't have that, but we could look that up for you. Okay,
we don't have that. I wonder if we had something in our strategic plan and our trends report.
Or it might be that.
Thank you for that. So the breakthrough with Smile Keepers, and big thanks to the Public Health Department and their team there, is we encourage them to put their data, their fall and spring screening data, on a Scantron form, and then we received all that data de-identified, redacted, and we processed those data for them because that would have been quite a big data entry burden for them. But what we could see for the first time is how actually children move from fall to spring. And so what we're hoping to see is that children who had a need identified in fall, that those needs are abated in the spring if they've been connected to treatment. And so it's a bit of a confusing chart here, so let me walk you through it. On the far left, what you'll see is of the 2,800 children, 2,814 children who had no dental health needs at the fall screening, by the spring screening, or V2, 2,600 still had no needs, which is good. However, 203 of them did develop non-urgent needs. The middle column shows that of the 1,382 children who had non-urgent needs, but needs in the fall, by spring, 368 of those children had moved to the no needs category. So that's great as a result of receiving treatment. However, 926 children still had non-urgent needs. Over to the urgent needs category. So 287 children had a need, an urgent need identified in the fall, and by the spring, 184 of those children still had urgent needs. So when we looked at those data, we thought, first of all, thanks so much to the Public Health Department for working with us to share that data. But what it looks like is when there's a mild need that we're able to connect children to services, when there's a more severe need, that to us it looks like that need is still there for a good majority of children. So we want to loop back to that through the eval subcommittee and see what that might mean for programming in the year going forward. Okay, moving to goal 2, children are born healthy. So I'll talk first about the Cultural Broker Program. I know you had presentations on this a lot in past meetings. Last year they served 2 years ago they served 440 women, African American women. This year that dropped to 414, but still fairly similar. And as you recall, there are 2 major providers. There's the WellSpace Health and Black Mothers United. WellSpace Health is offering clinic services. Black Mothers United is offering home visitation services. And so we want to look at the birth outcomes of the mothers that are served by the Cultural Broker Program. And out of the 241 births last year, we saw about an equal proportion of those were low birth weight compared to the countywide average for African American moms. So not a real difference there this year. There was a difference in the previous year, and we think what happened this year is that there was a high number of twins born in this program. So twins are more likely to be low birth weight. So no big difference there for those in terms of low birth weight. However, for premature births, we did see that amongst our population, 8% were born premature compared to the countywide average for African American mothers of 13%. So quite a bit lower, and we're also lower than the Healthy People 2020 average. Go ahead.
Jones?
Yes, I'm sorry to keep interrupting you. Perhaps you already said it and I just missed it. Is this data that you're referring to, this is for the fiscal year ending 2016, June 30th, 2016?
2017. This is all 2016, 17 data.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, moving to goal 3, so children are healthy. Again, talking about the Cultural Broker Program, we're also looking at the infant mortality rate for that program. And so across the county for African American babies, that rate is 8.8 per 1,000 births. And we're happy to report that across the Cultural Broker Program, of those 241 births, there were no infant deaths within that first year of life after birth. So that's a fantastic finding. The Infant Safe Sleep Baby Campaign was quite busy in this last year as well, with 1-hour workshops for providers and for many, many parents out there in the community, and 637 cribs distributed. This project was also able to distribute intake and a follow-up survey amongst training participants to see how that training knowledge stuck. And so what we were excited to see from that, and all these numbers are significant from pre to post, is that there were significant changes in the sleep location. So participants being more likely to put their child to sleep in a crib or a bassinet, less likely to put the child to sleep in an adult bed, more likely to put their child to sleep on their back, and not with pillows, blankets, or stuffed animals, and not to co-sleep. So these are great results.
Does this represent the full gamut of metrics around safe sleeping that we're measuring to conclude, how well we're doing? In other words, are there other, I don't know what it would be, but are there other ways, other questions that we're asking, or is this the totality of how we're measuring things?
Yeah, that's a great question. There probably is more data available in LPC's report, but this is the data that we gleaned from their own follow-up survey. But does staff want to contribute more?
These data, can you hear me? These data are specific to the Infant Safe Sleep Baby campaign. So later on this year, in about December, you're going to hear about more data from birth records and death records and whatnot that will tell you the 3-year span and what that looked like. But this particular data are just for one program.
Right, and I understand that. I just, in the universe of the safe sleeping component of what we're trying to do here, though, I was wondering if there's any other measure around behavior, performance of parents, and how infants are being cared for, treated when it comes to sleeping, other than what the various questions that are asked here.
Survey results there.
Yeah. So these are the 6 questions that most likely represent the survey, the follow-up survey. And if there are additional data, I would have to get back to you on it. I really don't know.
Okay.
Commissioner Cerna?
Yes.
Just to jump in, I apologize, but obviously safe sleep activities in the infant period are part of the strategy to stop infant deaths, infant mortality rates. So the fact that the 241 had no deaths is in part connected. No one's making causal claims for any of this stuff, but is connected to the fact that we have a more comprehensive intervention that includes our prenatal efforts, our cultural broker efforts, and our infant safe sleep, and our campaign. So all of those are there. The more distal outcome for us is infant mortality, and that is the standard, across the nation for looking at this. So just to clarify that what we heard just before this is related to the infant safe sleep efforts as well as the other components.
Right.
Thank you. I would add that pages 32 through 35 in the report have much more detailed data about what happens with the 2 more in-depth programs, Black Mothers United and WellSpace Health. I think of the Infant Safe Sleep campaign as a light touch across a lot of people around basic knowledge of safe sleep practices, but this happens in a much more in-depth way with those 2 programs that are serving those 414 moms. And I'm going to show you some of that data in a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay. We also want to highlight some of the great results from the WIC program. So First 5 funds lactation assistance supports for WIC. And this year reached almost 5,000 mothers with those services. So looking at services from the time their child was born up until that child was 1 year of age, quite a big volume of support was provided, from over 3,000 calls to the helpline, drop-in services for over 2,000 moms, and one-on-one consultations for mothers as well. And all of this is really aimed toward not only breastfeeding right away in the hospital, but maintaining breastfeeding. And so the exciting outcome measure here is we're looking at exclusive breastfeeding 6 months after birth. And so for the WIC clients, again, this year was the first time they were able to separate their First 5 data from all of their regular data, but we saw that for First 5 supported moms in the program, 24% of moms were still breastfeeding exclusively at 6 months, compared to the average of 20% for the state and 16% nationwide. So that's a great result. Okay, moving away from health into the early care environments. So goal 4, children are in conducive environments. So we're going to highlight the preschool bridging model, or PBM Plus as we fondly call it. So working not with publicly funded spaces, but privately funded preschools. And so PBM Plus provided individual training and support to 131 teachers in the FY16-17 year, as well as different health and developmental screenings and referrals for children that had needs. And a lot of data is highlighted here in your report, but just wanted to pull out something that was exciting that we saw. So they use the CLASS tool, which is a classroom assessment scoring system, which is kind of a cornerstone of all the QRIS rating work that happens across the state, basically a measure of classroom quality. And so PBM Plus increased significantly so from pre to post, or fall to spring, on all of the dimensions measured with their CLASS tool in this last year, so that was great. Okay, focusing now on child action, a counterpart in the same set of work. Through the Quality Child Care Collaborative, provided instructional support to 183 different center and family care teachers. And child action also uses different quality rating assessments, one for center-based care, family care, and infant-toddler care. And so again, to pull out just one chart, we're showing you the family child care environmental rating scales. And we saw that there were nice improvements here as well. That program is different in that the coaching and support is provided not over the course of a year, but over the course of the average time from pre and post here was 19 months. So we actually had to pull together data from several years to do this analysis, but we saw that, with the exception of one domain, that there were increases on all the domains measured, and significantly so for 3 of the domains. Again, this is first ever data for this program. Okay, moving now to Goal 5, Children Are Ready for Kindergarten. So Project SOARS is a unique program in that it's targeting really vulnerable children who might be in homeless shelters, transitional settings, entering the foster care system, but targeting these children out in the community and their parents to give them physical and developmental screenings, family action plans, home visiting, and referrals where needed. And so with this program, across the ASQ and ASQ3, 536 screenings were done, and I believe also physical health screenings were conducted also. And from that battery of screenings, 58 children were referred for services. And among the children that were referred and had follow-up data, so we did lose 10 children here, but of those 48 for whom we had service data rather, all of them have been connected. They've been assessed or were in the process of being assessed, which is the beginning of a service engagement. So that was great news to see. Because we don't want to see referrals, or assessments rather, and referrals, but then no services for the identified need. So in this case, all of those children were in the process of getting their needs met. The Sacramento Public Library was also busy out in the community with early literacy services this last year. So services were provided to 475 families. So they were visiting apartment complexes around the county, 216 visits to be exact, using the bookmobile. 96 families got library cards, and 64 families participated in early literacy workshops. The Crocker Art Museum, I just love that presentation earlier today. It gives much more justice to what they do than our one bullet here. But so they provided museum tours and art workshops to 249 children, and provided tips for tots, instructional guides for parents on the importance of arts and stimulating arts education with their children. Okay, moving now to the School Readiness Initiative, the work that takes place across your 9 partner school districts. So over 5,000 children were served last year, and almost as many parents at 46 school readiness sites around the county. And services included preschool slots, so over 653 children had a preschool slot. Also developmental screenings, transitional summer camps, playgroups, and family literacy activities. And so in terms of data, this section actually takes quite a big portion of your report, so it's tough to just pick and pull a couple pieces for you. But family literacy, like what we saw in previous years, when families participated in those activities, we saw that there was a significant increase in those families who are reading 5 or more times a week. We also saw that families who participated in any school readiness service, that their children were likely to have participated in transitional activities, which is a big predictor of kindergarten readiness. And for preschool spaces, remember 653 children were funded to have a space. Children were twice as likely to be ready for kindergarten when they had a first 5 funded preschool space as compared to when they did not have a space. Okay, moving into Goal 6, so families connecting to their communities. So 211 is a call center that's funded by, in part by First 5. And this last year, they responded to over 12,000 calls of parents who had children 0 to 5. 12,000 calls or inquiries for services and information, and made over 700 health-related referrals. And something that we love about 211 is that they commit to doing follow-up calls as well. So it's not enough to just provide a referral, but we want to see how are those families doing. So their goal was to provide follow-up calls to 2% of those callers, and they actually exceeded that by calling almost 4% of clients. And so of those who were reached with a follow-up call, 49% had successfully achieved or acquired or accessed that service, but 40% still needed additional support. So that jumps out to us as something to loop back around for the quality improvement, is what is happening there? What are they learning from those families? What were the difficulties with accessing services? The Community Building Grants, as you recall, is a mini grant program. So $5,000 are given out to different community groups that form. And so this last year, there were 6 different groups that provided, that kept going and provided data. So and the names of the groups are really sweet, from the Happy and Healthy Tots to the Super Mamas group to the Vietnamese Young Mothers group. And there was even a fathers group that started but had some lower follow-up numbers. But of those families, or of those individuals that committed to join a group, and there were 112 families that we have data from, 57 of those completed a closure survey, and the results look really good in terms of them saying that they felt like they learned about more resources for their families, they made new friends and connections by being in that group, and that their child learned new skills to help them prepare for kindergarten. So very successful effort with just the $5,000 mini grants around the county. We also ask on the family intake form, we have a series of social connection questions. We call them our protective factors questions. And what we're looking to see is whether or not from pre to post on the family intake form, whether or not families are better connected to their communities. And what we saw across over 1,500 families is that, and these were significant gains, that families are more likely to know who to contact in their community when they need help for basic needs, when they needed advice on how to raise their child, and when they needed to talk to somebody about their problems. So this again means that there's less isolation, better connection to supports for them and their families. So over to Birth and Beyond Family Resource Centers in Goal 7, served over 2,000 children this past year and twice as many caregivers, and the major services included parent education, home visiting, and crisis intervention. So again, this is a big section of the annual report, and there's a separate report coming to you just on Birth and Beyond services. So a lot of data could be pulled forth, but something that caught my eye is the home visiting outcomes. So of the 300 home visitation clients who were involved with the child welfare, and 33% of those had a prior substantiated referral. So they weren't assessed out, but there was a substantiated referral. In the following year, of those 300 home visitation clients, just 3% had a new substantiated referral. We call that recurrence, compared to the countywide recurrence rate for 0 to 5s of 9%. So again, just 3% had a recurrence compared to 9%. We think that's pretty exciting data. The crisis intervention clients, on a measure that's administered by that component of the program, had good data as well. So on a scale from 1 to 5, we saw the level of stress reduce for those clients. We saw the level of support from family, friends, and community increase, and we saw knowledge about places to get help and information also increase. So again, this is the work that happens that's probably related to the data that you saw on the past slide about families being more connected to people for support and knowing where to go when they need help. Okay. So Crisis Nurseries, also a really innovative program that I actually have only seen in Sacramento County. We evaluate a lot of first fives, and so this program always stands out to me as really special. But as you know, it's a drop-off support for families that are in emergency or in crisis, and they can leave their child for a couple hours or for overnight if they need to. And just, it's not just a drop-off for their child, but they're trying to understand what the family's needs are and providing some case management referral services so that the need abates over time. And so there were over 500 children that were served by the Crisis Nurseries, 2,500 emergency child care stays, and 1,290 overnight stays. About half of those stays were just for one night. We were very interested to see how long people were staying. So about half were just for one night, and so we can presume that for those families, they found another solution in the future or the need was mitigated. But 12% were for 5 or more nights. So that pops out to us as, what's happening with that 12%? What more can we know about them in terms of support? So we're going to loop back to that in our evaluation subcommittee meeting. This program also has its own pre-post survey measuring the level of stress at intake and at follow-up, and so by that measure, 66% reduced their stress levels from pre to post, and 89% agreed or strongly agreed that they were better able to solve crisis situations after receiving services. So again, it seems like families feel very well supported by this service, and by and large, it seems like it's meeting the need, but we do want to take a look at those who have more frequent visits. So in terms of next steps, and I have talked as fast as I possibly can, trying to get you done on time. We're very pleased with the evaluation. We started this in 14-15, had our first evaluation report for you in 15-16, and now 16-17 is our second full year of evaluation on the new kind of revised evaluation system. And so we're pretty pleased with how data are getting gathered and coming in, but we did note a couple refinements to the family information form that we wanted to make. So we hadn't tried for having a good socioeconomic marker in the first time around, so there's no income question, no education question. We think we're going to try to add that next time. And we're going to try to increase the number of follow-ups that we can gather. So as you could see from several of those charts, when we could have that blanket layer of data across all first 5 clients from intake to follow-up, we saw movements on dental access, we saw movements on being better connected to supports, so we want to try to increase that follow-up rate. We also are excited about the RBA dashboards, and the Executive Director, Julie, and her team have been a big champion of this, of just really having a common framework to look at all programs, how much, how well, and better off. So there's a few programs that still don't have a dashboard, so we're going to bring them onto a dashboard, and then really using this as a basis for the new contracts in the upcoming period. So there should never be any question about how a program is getting measured. It's by those 3 dimensions. We also want to increase the accuracy of some of the service data. From time to time, there are minor discrepancies between what is put into Persimmon versus what that grantee has in their own records. So that's the kind of thing that keeps Carmen and ASR up at night. We don't want to do that going in the future, so we want to understand why that happens and try to fix that. And then we want to continue having some deeper investigation like what we did with Child Action, where the data were just not available on a yearly basis, but let's pull the data together and see what we can see across multiple years. So we want to do that for the playgroups and for transitional summer camp and for crisis nursery. We want to have a deeper look at that data to see what's happening for children and families. So that concludes our presentation this year. Any questions that I haven't taken along the way?
Okay, we do have a few commissioners that want to ask questions or make comments. The first is Commissioner Moak.
Thank you. Thanks for the report. It was great as always. On page, not 13, but 5, because I kept looking at item number 13 as if they were page numbers, so I apologize.
Of the PowerPoint?
So on page 5, down at the bottom, the Sacramento covered data that indicates the N per question is 35, 143, 87, 2. Is that 35? The N was 35 for health insurance.
Correct.
So 143 was regular doctor, 87, so on. Why such variance in the N?
Yeah, so what happens is actually most of the clients that they are serving already have health insurance. So the very few did not. So in this case, only 35 did not have health insurance. But we still wanted to see, but what happens to those who didn't have coverage? So for further reading on that, let me just find that page for you.
I looked a little bit, but I don't
Sorry?
know. I looked into the detail, but I still didn't feel like it. I'm not sophisticated enough to really find my own answer.
Right. So on page 26...
Which most of you know, so sorry. Now you're having
But you are detail-oriented. Great question. On page 26, we show the overall rates of children who have health insurance, have a regular doctor, have had a well-child checkup in the past, and you can see that across all of SAC-covered clients at intake, those percentages are about 78% to 85% to 83%, so they're pretty high. Although for dentists, only 39% had coverage at intake, and that's why the N on that question was 203. So basically 203 did not have coverage, and so we wanted to see what happened with those.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Great question.
And then, sorry, one more is on page, that was 5. So on page 13.
Of the PowerPoint?
Well, maybe not. Hang on. Oh, no, sorry, page 8. With the cultural broker program.
Sure.
I think all I wanted to say was these are those moments that we get an evaluation back. It is gleamingly positive and hitting all those markers that we are hopeful that it does, and working like we had envisioned that it would, and babies are not dying, and I know in an evaluation report, like we literally spent 42 seconds on it, and I just wanted to pause for a minute and say and bring attention to how substantial that bullet is in this community. And between Black Mothers United, and WellSpace Health, what they have been able to do in this area is nothing short of amazing. And so
that's wonderful.
I know there's a lot of bullets in here. I know a lot of them mean a lot of are indicative of very important factors in our community, but let's be real. Babies are not dying in this pool that were. So
amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Elliott.
I also paused on that page, but I first wanted to thank you so much for working with the evaluation committee. It's been wonderful, and we sincerely appreciate everything that you guys do. But I too paused on that page and put some notes down because that is extremely gratifying, and I've only been on the commission since 2013, but I do feel a little bit of ownership now over that, and I'm just so grateful for all the work that everyone is doing in the community. It's staggering to look at that, and there's so much work to do. So there's still that percentage we're not getting. So there's a lot to do still, but we are, I think, doing the right thing. But I also wanted to say to Julie, I know, as we start to go towards more of a united statewide voice for First Five California, this is the type of stuff I'd love for us to point to and influence from a statewide perspective, especially as we still have the issue with retailers. And I feel like I'm a broken record with that, but, they're putting out all of these beautiful things that are death traps for so many babies. And, as we start to be a more united statewide force, maybe we can start having some federal influence and we can put some pressure. I'm not saying laws, please don't interpret that as laws, but some pressure on retailers to be good actors in this space, because we have some extremely compelling data here, so I'm excited about that.
Great.
Thank you. Commissioner Wirtz?
Just a brief comment also. It's been a real pleasure to work with our partners in this evaluation and with our staff on this. And I think that Christine and David and our committee probably ask a lot of questions, and you've been very supportive of providing answers and looking and going harder. So I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate your notion of how we're framing this, that it's very hard to do this sort of applied evaluation as we go. And we've got providers that are trying to provide services, and our goal is not to have them stop and say, wait, did you write that down? Is that going to get to the evaluation committee, and so on. So it's a work in progress, and I really appreciate how you frame that as quality improvement. I think what I've seen is some substantial improvement in getting data collected. I mean, Smiles Keepers is a good example of the kind of partnership we need between agencies and departments to say it's okay to share this information in a safe and appropriate way that can inform our practices. So I think that's really showing the right direction, that we're going to continue to need to do that. And I'll just put a plug out that we have some other requests for access to data that I'm hoping that this commission can facilitate the ability to share, county level data and county department data with First Five in a way that can inform all of our work in the county. So we're on the right track. We'll probably do more of that. The other thing I just want to make clear about infant mortality, it is one of the major measures across the country, and the disparities with African American communities and with some other communities of color have remained very difficult to address over generations and decades. And I just want to point out that the way we're going to succeed in Sacramento is through a collaborative approach. It's not enough to have prenatal services. It's not enough to have cultural brokers. It's not enough to have safe sleep programs. It really does depend on the Black legacy kind of involvement of the community at a grassroots level, and the leadership that Commissioner Cerna and others have put into this from the top down. All of those are going to be needed. So I guess it's a little bit of I'm a data person, and I'm generally optimistic, but these efforts may or may not show in the short term the number change that we want to see consistently. And so I just want us to be aware of the difficulty of the problem and of the level of involvement. It's all about scope and reach for reaching the approximately 2,000 African American births in our community in a way that supports those families sufficiently pre-conception, conception, prenatal, postnatal, to have these successes. So thank you for this data. I think it continues to help us inform and hopefully keeps us on target. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Turner-Johnson.
Just briefly, first of all, in the relation of reduction of infant mortality, there just are no words to express the gratitude of being able to move that agenda even further along. But I also want to highlight one other thing. The home visiting business of a potential link in reducing child maltreatment, it really jumps out at me. In the past, in my work in early childhood, I've been involved with home visiting for many, many years, and it takes a lot of coordination and really sort of an impetus to justify as to why you're doing it and so on. And in fact, there is even danger sometimes for people that were social workers out there doing it. But what I want to say about this is that I've long thought that was such an essential part of bridging between a child in school and the professionals at the school in terms of them having a comprehensive, what we now call a blanket around them that gives them security to go on with cognitive, social, emotional, and all the domains of learning. That's how I see it. And to see this kind of data, even though we don't know exactly which interventions, which with each families, and we don't know the kind of follow-up, that's an incredible piece of information. I think we have to, as Commissioner Wirtz already did say, we have to watch out for follow-up, because a parent that might have had a call one year and then no more calls, down to 3% in this pool, it seems, without continued follow-up of some kind, which I know means funding, could slip back, because these are multiple and complex issues in families, and they need to be tracked and followed in a way within our systems that allow for that to be a real healing from the kinds of trauma. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Jones.
Thank you again. I thought it was an excellent presentation. You did it in a remarkably efficient manner. I wanted to comment on your next steps, which I think are all very good and would be very helpful in informing us in our decision making. But in there, you talked a little bit about the family information form, which I think is great, and the adding the socioeconomic markers as well as the increased number of follow-up gathering. That's good. I also found it very helpful when you included the context of both local and state and national parameters, or what are the benchmarks, because I think those help form, what kind of policy differences we can make and where we're lagging and what kind of compelling advocacy we can do.
Great. Thank you. We'll try to do more of that.
Any other comments? Okay, I'll end and express my thanks for an excellent report. And I want to also thank my fellow commissioners. You've heard from several about the amount of pride, rightful pride that they take in this work, being associated with it, and I couldn't be more proud of the commission I have the honor of serving as chair of. And I know that we talk about this effort to reduce child mortality very frequently, and that's fine by me. We should. It's kind of an ever-present challenge. I would ask our executive director to, if she hasn't already, to maybe look into how we perhaps get our story out to First Five California with more intensity about, just kind of how this effort has evolved, how we now are so fortunate to have terrific partners, and everyone from CAPC to Sierra Health Foundation to the County of Sacramento itself to the City of Sacramento. I mean, it just feels like there's a lot of horsepower behind this from many perspectives, with a lot of different individuals and organizations that are fully invested. And I think one of the outcomes we'd all want certainly is for us to achieve the objectives we set for ourselves, very lofty goals to reduce infant mortality rates in various ways. But I would also think that one of the more important metrics too is how this whole effort might be used as a model, replicated even other First Fives around the state.
Yep.
I think I've made mention of the fact that I'm using every opportunity I have as a county supervisor through our outlets, through CSAC, our County State Association of Counties, and NACO, our National Association, to try and tell the story every time I can. I've been to NACO conferences on child welfare, and always take with me the big bag of material that we keep well stocked in my office to help us tell that story. But that might be something we want to make a little more intentional and kind of less ad hoc. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Sure. It is a little bit ad hoc right now, just because I mostly communicate with the
two other counties that have the same issue, which is Fresno County and
Well,
Alameda.
let's be honest, they all have the issue.
No, they do, but and Fresno is actually even higher rates than Sacramento. And so we sometimes meet as a little ad hoc group to talk this over. We'll have conference calls. We share what each other is doing, but we haven't necessarily come to the association or something and said, can we have like a working group, a learning community around this? And that could be one of the things that I bring forward.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there is there an annual conference, or maybe more than one, that all the first 5 executive directors and their staffs attend? And
That's the one that's coming up in April in Glendale.
Okay.
That has a commissioner track.
And have we ever tried to assemble a presentation, panels?
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
not
in the
on
past-
this
yeah, not-
particular,
yeah.
not on this particular matter.
I meant.
Yeah. I think we were kind of waiting for our 3-year data, so
Sure.
and to get some of the data
I
that will
understand
come
that.
out of the Black Child Legacy campaign, so that
Sure.
we can sort of bring it as a full picture. It's so tempting to go and run with the 2 years that we have and really want to like shout it from the rooftops, but I think it just might not quite be ready for that yet. But that is something we can do in the next year, probably, when we have 3 years and we get some data coming out of Black Child Legacy.
I would highly suggest that we plan now for how we do that, how we roll it out, and and whether it's that conference or other means to explain the initiative and what it's producing in terms of early results would be very worthwhile.
Yep.
Yeah, Commissioner Turner.
I'm so sorry. I meant to close what I was saying that this kind of data, even if it is the first solid year of data, is sufficient enough to inform and motivate policy. So I concur with Supervisor Cerner. I don't think it's too early to share it whatever way we can, and beyond local and regional. I mean, it's significant enough that it should be talked about. And with another year behind us, we can make that even more powerful. So.
Commissioner Sneeringer?
And I'm actually going to be attending the conference in April. I'm presenting on some other issues. But if we had even just some basic collateral material that we could start to share, I have the opportunity to interact with quite a few other commissions, including First Five California, and I'm happy to try to, at least where possible, share our efforts and get people excited about it to kind of build up the energy moving forward.
Great, thank you.
I have to admit, I've never been to the state conference. Is there such thing as like like an exhibition hall or anything like that? I mean, I know there is for CSAC and there is for the League of California
varies.
Cities.
They have had that in the past, and then last year I think they didn't have it. So I don't know if that's going to be part of this year's conference.
So here's a thought: if there is an opportunity where there's like some limited space, maybe it's not an exhibition hall, but maybe it's a lobby to, the breakout sessions and the various rooms at the hotel. That, and I believe Kendra has this material, but maybe have a booth of some sort where you begin to give people a taste of what we're doing, and maybe even get them curious. So by the time next year rolls around, it's a campaign at least folks are somewhat familiar with from across the state, and that's where we hit them with all the hopefully great news from the past 3 years.
Good.
Okay. Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Next item is commission member comments. Any comments from my fellow commissioners? No? Okay. I did want to make mention of a small kickoff event that I had the good fortune of attending last week. It was the Youth and Family Collective kickoff meeting on the 29th. The way I understand it, that this is a kind of an umbrella organization or effort that includes 25 like-minded nonprofits that are all dedicated in their own unique ways to youth and families here in our region. And Aaron Murray with our First Five staff brought me up to speed on who they are and what they're attempting to do, invited me out there, and I said a few words of encouragement in addition to many others. But it looks like kind of a really, it's going to be a really sound kind of clearinghouse for a lot of initiatives that are important to this commission. So I look forward to their success in carrying out their mission, and would certainly like to publicly welcome them onto our regional scene and invite them to team up with us where possible.
That's great. We're working closely with them, actually, and it's really one of the, I look at our Black Child Legacy campaign as a collective impact kind of program, and this is another one sort of launching, and they have a lot of nonprofits on board already, and they're just in like the plannings. They just launched with a core set of folks, and I think they're definitely going to be going places. So I'll keep
and just so you know, I wasn't shy about kind of explaining my experience. I'm sure others in the commission would agree that we have a good problem in Sacramento, right? We have a lot of nonprofits that are all dedicated to doing
compulsive collaboration disorder. That's what it's called. CCD. It's in the DSM-5, I think.
So they're all, dedicated to doing great work in their own respects. Sometimes we can clumsily trip over each other, or worse off, maybe even cannibalize one another on certain things. So I'm hopeful that this collaboration can also, in addition to their broader mission, work to kind of minimize that. That would be helpful.
I think that is one of their goals.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. There's no further business before this commission, and there's no one in the public that wants to address us. We are adjourned.